grid, although he's got a while now to try and recover, and a real shame for him to miss this round. But we do return to Mandalika later in the year alongside World SBK once again, so he will get a home round, hopefully, if he's back and fighting fit for that one.
Absolutely. But, we do have, I think it's 8 riders that rode here last year in various forms, either wildcards or full-time riders. We just saw Hakim Danish, who's lining up on the grid in 2nd position, just behind Amon Adaki. Danish actually had a crash in the first race here last year and then didn't compete in the others, so limited experience.
Limited experience, but some experience. So yes, we'll have to see. And this is the man on your screen that, like I said, took 3 podiums last year, the only returning rider who's been on the box here already. So I don't know, it's hard to bet against him at least being in the fight at the front again. But we have a little bit of a mixed up grid after a very wet qualifying session first thing this morning, but we don't have a mixed up pole position. We have a very familiar now face in P1. Amon Adaki, once again the Japanese rookie, just top of the class, wasn't he?
Yeah, really, really impressive he was in qualifying. Took pole position by 0.363 seconds, so about a third of a second or so. 1 second back, though, was actually Gun Mie, the rider that took triple podium here at last year towards the end of 2021. Nearly a second back, so that's how fierce Amon Adaki was in qualifying, but those conditions were completely the opposite to how they are here this afternoon.
They absolutely were, yes. So it's going to be an interesting one, I think. We've got Carter Thompson, the number 6, down in 6th. We've got Shinya Izawa, the first race winner of the season, in 7th. But then we've got a few guys who will be looking to move forward for sure after a more difficult session, and some of the gaps further down the grid are huge, so they will not be representative of dry race pace. And there is the number 6, the Australian. I'm sure he'll be very eager to take a podium in one of these 2 races here at Mandalika and open his count.
Pretty close last year with a 4th and a 5th in those 2 races, so Carter Thompson looking pretty strong. Qualified, as you can see there on the graphic, the number 6 is 6th on the grid.
It's nice for us, isn't it?
Just, yeah, much easier. As we have been looking at plenty of Indonesian riders. Wildcards we have here this weekend as well. Of course, with Pratama with the qualification before his accident, actually had qualified down in 12th. But we saw them earlier. Raykat Fadilla, 4th position, and Anne Rizwanto just behind there in 5th, alongside, just ahead of Carter Thompson.
Yep, exactly. So a couple of Indonesian riders up there on the grid, certainly, and they'll be looking to try and stay in that fight at the front. And then we have Zachary Akbar as well, who's joining us this weekend as a wild card, another Indonesian face on the grid. So yeah, I think it should be a good race, but it really doesn't give us much to go on the grid. No,
absolutely not. And talk about it, Fran. I mean, it's meant to be a proper sellout crowd here this weekend, and plenty of fans have stuck around after the MotoGP race to see this Asia Talent Cup race. I mean, the Indonesians love it. I mean, most of the views probably on YouTube are coming from over here at the moment, isn't it? It's just they're absolutely mad for it, understandably so.
Yeah, absolutely. They absolutely love motorcycle racing in Indonesia and in many of the countries from which the ATC riders hail. But it's great to see such passion for them. It even took Raykat, Carter and Faris Putra up to the VIP village for a Q&A earlier today, and plenty of interest in them as well, even though they're, you know, part of the ATC that normally maybe doesn't get those huge events. Here it's just so much
they're already
much love.
Superstars, aren't they?
Exactly, so much love.
Cracking stuff. There's Nicholas, who's already got some experience here as well. Last year came just inside sort of the top 15 or so, 14th, 16th and 13th. We'll be looking to go a bit better. You just saw on the graphic there, taking off from 10th on the grid, the Greek Aussie.
Absolutely, yeah. And then Ray Wakamatsu here, I'm sure will be wanting to move forward as well in 11th place. And we saw him as well in Qatar. We should watch out for him coming through sort of once the race has really got going, because the number 2 was really, really strong in the middle and latter stages of the race in Qatar. There was a mistake in race 1, but it was a good performance from him.
Well then, 1 minute board before all the bikes tyre warmers come off and we get ready for the warm-up lap. This is your rundown of the grid. It's Adaki from Danish and Mie, Fadilla, Rizwanto and Thompson, 2 Indonesians on row 2. Izawa, second in the championship, heads row 3 from Hafi, and Laung Plio, who's at the back of that row. Nicholas Wakamatsu, Fuetasan, the other side rider there in 12th. Putra Izdahar and Trihardika there in 15th. Al Sahuti, unfortunately, not quite the best wet weather performance, but keep an eye out for him because he's been very strong in the dry. Tranduk Tai just alongside him, with Akbar, Quintal and Cameron Swain filling up the 21 riders. Well, only 20 unfortunately now, as Vader Pratama will not be competing in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And a word on Al Sahouti: if you thought he was a wild card in Qatar, you are correct, but he's now become a full-time rider. And don't forget that incredible performance he had on home turf to get on the podium. But yeah, wet weather qualifying, I'm sure we'll see more from him now we're having a dry race one.
Yeah, let's see, shall we? Well, the rider's about to head out on to the warm-up lap, and blimey, with the way they're taking off, it seems like the start of the race already. I thought we'd missed something, but apparently not. In terms of lap times to keep an eye out for, we'll be bringing you those information throughout the race. Gun Mie's already got the all-time lap record at the moment here, a 1:44.6. So in qualifying, the fastest lap time was actually from Adaki, a 1:52. So we'll be going much faster than that, and with more and more rubber on the track from MotoGP, Moto2 and Moto3 here in the qualifying sessions. They just had 3 dry running sessions. Well, plenty of rubber down for extra grip.
Yep, we will definitely, I don't know, I think we're in for a great race here. A bit of a step into the unknown, not only with a newer track for most of the field, but also, like we said, with that wet qualifying, it's really made it just 2 free practice sessions in similar-ish conditions for these guys to get their teeth into this stunning Mandalika circuit. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. I got a bit tongue-tied over a simple, easy word, circuit. But yeah, as you can see there, it's partly cloudy, but it's still very, very warm here in Indonesia, as it is at many of the venues where the Asia Talent Cup races, but here, especially this weekend, it's been a scorcher.
Yeah, well, if you want a bit of a preview to what the race could be like, I mean, Tayo Furusato, the 2021 champion, and we're still wishing well, he's not actually here in Indonesia, still recovering from a broken leg. Tayo took all 3 victories here last year. However, the biggest winning margin of those victories was 0.218 of a second, under of a quarter of a second ahead of Daniel Sharil, who then actually, I think, came second in all 3 races, didn't the Malaysian?
Yeah, it was a kind of weekend of duels for those 2 at Mandalika last year. So obviously those top 2 spots on the podium will definitely have new names next to them here this weekend. But it was Gun Mie, like we said, that was sort of best of the rest last year. So it'd be an interesting one to see if he can do that again, because I think he was a bit disappointed in Qatar, and will be wanting to try and chip away at trying to take that victory.
Well, 16 laps of drama and action in the Asia Talent Cup await not only us, but the hordes of fans that have stayed over from the qualifying sessions of the Grand Prix classes to watch their potential stars of the future, or frankly, the stars of now. It's Adaki from Danish from Mie on the front row of the grid. They've got 2 Indonesian riders, home heroes, chasing them all the way. Who will get the jump, the whole shot in towards turn 1? Who will we see victorious here in Asia Talent Cup? Race 1 of round 2. The lights will come on, they'll go off, and we'll burst into life once again on the road to Red Bull Rookies and MotoGP. Here we go then, a clean takeoff from just about everybody. A big push with the right or left leg, and they begin the charge down towards turn 1. It looks like it's going to be 13 of Danish versus 14 of Adaki. Who's got the whole shot? I think it's the Japanese rider.
It is indeed. So yeah, you can see Gun Mie moved over really quite a lot from his grid slot, and the number 5 was lost out quite significantly there. Oh, it's already getting really close at the front. But yeah, dream start for Adaki this time round, which wasn't his forte in Qatar, so that's good news for the Japanese rookie. But I'm sure we're going to end up with a group for certainly a little bit in this race, so chopping and changing will begin now.
I think the pre-race jitters got a bit of the better of him back at that first race in Qatar. He really got swallowed by the pack, but came through to take a very respectable result indeed. And what about Danish, who's on the chase as well? Fadila, the top Indonesian rider at the moment, in 3rd, with Mie in 4th. Keep an eye on the number 5. 3 podiums here last year. He knows what he's doing around this track. It's Danish to the front.
He does indeed. So,
oh, we have a crash down there. It's Mie. Oh, cursed him. Oh, the first commentator's curse of the year. What a disaster for the Japanese rider. There won't be a triple or even a double podium here this time in Indonesia.
I was about to add to that as well, because it was him and Carter Thompson who swept back through after a more difficult start. But yeah, let's see then if the number 5 can get back in the running. Looks like he can't. So huge disappointment then for Gun Mie. So we're definitely going to have a whole new podium then here. And at the moment, like you said, Danish has hit hit the front, and he's kept that at the moment.
He was Scott Ogden, Moto3 Riders tip for victory here today, so I think it's Scott can share in the partial blame of tipping him for victory, but that's a shame. He gets another go at it tomorrow morning. It is Danish, the Malaysian rider, who come round the final corner at the end of this first lap to lead the charge. Across the line we come. He's got Adaki and Fadilla just behind him.
He has indeed. So great start for Rikat Fadilla then, the home rider. Really good form from him so far on Saturday, and in two very different sets of conditions. And Thompson up in the mix as well. And Shinya Ezawa, we've not mentioned him too much so far, but he is in the top 5, our first winner of the season back in Qatar.
He started from 7th on the grid, was a little bit subdued, but those sorts of conditions this morning were incredibly wet. There are a fair few crashes as well. A few riders succumbing to the conditions, including the home favourite Putama, but this is a good start from Ezawa, as you rightly say. A couple of places up the order. Is he just off the back of that group and leading the second one? I can't quite tell. Yes, he's just at the back of this main group then. 4/10 adrift from Thompson.
Yeah, exactly. So as you can see, there's top 5 already starting to pull away from those on the chase. Perfect timing with the graphics there. It's 1.5 seconds at the last timing point between the two gaggles.
Ooh, that was Adaki
close.
making a mistake there, was it? With Fadilla going up in towards second now.
Yeah, it was. I think that's the bike of Gunmie in the background getting taken away, and nobody worries. We've not had another crash just yet. But Danish, though, at the front with that shuffle and that little mistake from Adaki, has really made a move to try and break the pack chasing him.
It's a real shame to see that number 5 being dragged away. Here's a replay of what happened coming down in towards turn 10. Got the slipstream, running it out wide on the curbs. Well, actually then switching back to the inside. Pushed out wide. Seemed to break a fair bit later, and well, there you go. Just too far inside, I suppose, and the front brake and the front tyre said, I can't handle any more than that, chap.
Yeah, just pushing a little bit too hard there. I think couldn't see any contact there, and it's lucky as well that he didn't collect him, whoever it was just ahead of him on track there. That was pretty close, but yeah, at least rider perfectly okay and walking away from that one, so we'll hope to see more of him tomorrow. But over the line last time around then, the man in the lead, Hakim Danish, great lap from him, a 1:44.9, fastest by some margin, and only stretching that lead at the moment, the Malaysian.
That is really, really impressive. The only rider in the 1:44s. We've got 3 riders in 1:45s. They're not your second place rider, Daki there. It does include the actual Indonesians, but we have a Malaysian out front. This is really impressive. Just, he had no real race experience from last year at all.
Yeah, no, this is really, really good stuff from Danish. And yeah, look at that gap. It seems to be visually growing corner by corner. Really impressive stuff from him. Just need to keep calm, take a few breaths. That's, you know, you need to win by 1,000th, not by 4 seconds. But great job from him so far. And these guys are only going to hold each other up the more they fight it out. Oh, I thought Carter Thompson was going for quite an ambitious dive there, but no, not quite. Slots back into 4th.
Well, that's a great little groupetta there. That whole section, Fran, out of turn 4 all towards turn 10 is flat out on these bikes. They do not break one little bit. That is absolutely astonishing stuff. What a circuit this must be on these NS 250Rs.
Just absolutely pinned. And I can imagine that made it quite an adjustment to head out in the rain this morning in qualifying as well, because you definitely can't keep it pinned in those conditions. But yeah, I don't know. What do we think about this group? Do we think they're going to be able to kind of reel in Danish anytime soon? Because at the moment they're still pretty spicy in this group. They're not helping each other at all, and Adaki at the moment not really able to look kind of commanding in that lead of the second group as he did so often in Qatar.
Oh, we've got Putaran who's crashed out of the race, unfortunately. That's a shame to see the number 20 go down. Putaran actually had a pretty good run out last time in race 2 in Qatar. 8th position come the checkered flag, just behind Carter Thompson, and only 2 seconds off the win. That we got Carter Thompson, speaking of which, making a move up in towards 3rd.
Yep, so these moves aren't going to help this group catch our race leader at the moment. However, if Thompson does worry that Adaki's starting to get away after recovering from that mistake, I'm sure he'd be eager to tag back onto the back of the number 14. We will have to see, but at the moment, none of these guys are a slouch at all in this race, but Danish has really got the hammer down.
The last lap around in these first 2 sectors, Adaki kept Danish well in check, maintaining the gap at 1.6 seconds, but it's in the 3rd and 4th final sectors that Danish is able to pull something out, which I'm guessing is because we got the main overtaking spots in these sorts of sections, and yeah, sort of guarding your line, etc., as we can see perfectly there. Change of lines. Is that Fadilla, yeah, trying to get back through on Thompson that time around. And we're now on board. We're second in the championship, Shinya Izawa.
We are indeed. So great onboard shot of this Mandalika circuit. And oh, yeah, I was going to say, I don't think there's quite room there. But yeah, those onboard shots are just great. And Izawa at the moment seems pretty content to sit there just behind these guys. Not looking too aggressive at the moment, as Fadilla and Thompson certainly really get the elbows out in these early stages of the race.
I'm sure plenty of Moto3 riders will be very interested in this race to see how sort of the changes in surface, etc., have affected the line choice available to these riders. It's something coming into weekend. Lots of people are talking about if you divert from your line for an overtaking move, it can get a bit more sketchy than perhaps they're used to. So it's good to see a variety of lines being taken, though Gun Mie with going well up the inside. I think that'll be taken note of well and truly.
Yeah, it just didn't quite work for the number 5 that tight around there, did it? So well, here at the front then, it looks like we've got another gap developing for Adaki, and it's not a very long straight here. It's just over 700 meters. Oh, that was a late dive there, but nicely done. Nicely done from Fadilla. So he's back up ahead of Carter Thompson then. But yeah, the straight here, only just over 700 meters. It's not the slipstream city that some of the venues on the ATC calendar can offer these guys, which will help Danish to keep that lead for one, and it will also help Adaki to stay in second place if the Japanese rider can keep it clean and just stay ahead of this little trio.
Yeah, this is not the kind of circuit where a tow really can help. It does help working together, of course, but this is why we're seeing Danish open up a gap towards 3 seconds now, and he's already taken a new all-time lap record from Gun Mie, which is early in the sessions. Now, it's worth pointing out that back in 2021, the riders were able to set 144.4s, but because you've got the changes to the surface that we've had in the first sector, now that has actually been scrapped from the history books.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult, isn't it, to compare them in terms of many things. For us, a lot of the grid, and also, yeah, those huge changes to the surface. So, but great stuff from Danish so far. This is really impressive from him. Like you can see there, that gap going up by over 3.5 tenths. That is no mean feat, given the way Adaki has arrived in the Asia Talent Cup and impressed from the off. So great stuff from the number 13 at the moment. Has he gone too hard too soon? We will find out as the latter stages approach, but so far so good.
Yeah, how will the grip be affected? Because it's not really something that normally comes into the Asia Talent Cup, is it? The tyre wear sort of situation, but with the extreme heat that we get in Indonesia, it could really become a possibility. But this is so impressive for Indonesia, another 0.8 of a second or so. But Adaki is well on the case, and he's got second in the championship. Izawa now on the trail as well. He did that double overtake into this very corner last time around. Fadilla, though, won't want to give it up. A home podium is the absolute dream for him and the Indonesian fans who have come in their droves here to Mandalika today.
Absolutely, yeah. So I can imagine Izawa's just watching those two guys with the orange helmets knocking each other about a little bit too much, maybe holding up the group, and has thought, maybe I'm going to pass you and try and go. But at the moment, the number 21 not able to really home in on Adaki ahead of him. Those two, of course, are race winners from Qatar, the two Japanese rookies. But yeah, at the moment, though, Adaki hasn't got much for Danish either, so this could end up as the fight for third place on the podium. We will have to find out. But Adaki keeping it nice and clean after that mistake earlier, but not quite able to make those inroads. Oh, I thought that was going to be a bit tight.
Yeah, Fadilla had a look. He had a look, didn't he? He was tempted.
He had a look last time around as well, so obviously tempted to go for that. Maybe on the last lap it'll just be tempting enough.
Yeah, turn 10 is very, very inviting indeed. Not quite as inviting as turns 15 and 16, though. We'll have to see. But that was some corner speed that Fadilla was carrying through turn 12. This is turn 13. I won't spoil what happened in the MotoGP or Moto2, Moto3 qualifying sessions, but there were some crashing hotspots for various aspects of those sessions. Here we are. This is turn 15 then, and it's a real proper trail braking section down towards turn 16. So easy to get it wrong. We've seen so many riders do that, plenty going off track, maybe just ruining their lap time, but you can't afford that kind of mistake in this sort of race anymore. Fadilla is crawling all over the back of Izawa, really harnessing that inner sort of home race energy, that little boost that you can get on home soil.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I called that too soon, didn't I? That Izawa was like, oh, maybe I've got more in the bag. No, apparently not. So far, the number 21 really struggling to shake off the affections of home rider Rekat Fadilla. And there you see, now it's dry again.
Yeah.
Al Sahuti made some really good gains in the first half of this race, or first few laps of this race, rather.
I think one of his main bits of homework when he goes away will be to try and find a way to train in the rain. So he doesn't train in vain, and that's Adaki, who's gone down. The number 14 has crashed out of the race, the championship leader. That is an absolute disaster. What has happened there?
Yeah, are we going to see a replay?
Oh,
yeah.
He might have gone down on the wet patch that caught so many other riders out in various different sections today at turn 2.
Well, that is a real surprise, isn't it? Because he's been almost faultless, except for those slightly sluggish starts, which lasted all of 20 seconds from the number 14 in Qatar. But as you can see, rider okay, always the main thing. Let's see if he can get that bike started and get back in the race, because with his pace, there would possibly still be a chance at points, but we can see his name still going down the timing screens. So yeah, that is a huge gap now for Hakeem Danish in the lead of this race.
That has got massive ramifications for the overall championship lead. Hakeem Danish, your race leader, is down in 5th with 22 points at the moment. There you go, that's a live championship, but that's what it does to it. Danish moves all the way up to 1st position. Sorry, 2nd position, I should say. But that would leave then Izawa, number 21, in the lead at the moment. It's very, very tight at the top. So actually, if it stays like this, I mean, it's a real pain for Adaki, but it's not a total disaster.
Yeah, it's not a total disaster, but as well, it puts a lot more pressure on the number 14 ahead of tomorrow, because then we have a bit of a break for these guys. So we want to go into that kind of on more of a high, certainly, than crashing out. So yeah, 41 points is quite a lot, but it all can still change at the top. Danish, I think now, is definitely his race to lose, unless they're really going to pull the pin in the last 9 laps of this race, because he's now got a huge advantage at the front. But yeah, these guys on the podium, maybe there's more drama to follow in this group. We just don't know. But yeah, Adaki will be ruining that mistake.
Oh, it just shows you've got to be absolutely on it in all laps. Every corner, every little application of the throttle or the front brake, all your line choices. You cannot take your eye off the ball for 1 split second. So many Moto2 riders spoke to them after the session today. They said the main problem with that new asphalt is it's so dark. You can't see where any potential damp patches are. And there's one right on the inside of that turn 2 section.
Yeah, it's just, it's hard to tell, isn't it? And apparently this surface takes a little bit longer to dry as well, doesn't it? So it's always a challenge, but one that these guys so far have got covered. Although Carter Thompson, not sure. Do we think the Australians may be struggling a little bit more to keep up with these guys at some parts on the track?
Or just sitting there.
Maybe
Danish
just sitting
gone.
there.
Forget it. Forget
Maybe
the win.
Just sitting there, yeah. I think it's game over for the win unless Hakeem Danish makes his own mistake, which would really put another cat amongst the pigeons in terms of the points. But yeah, this group so far then will be fighting for 2nd place in this race. But and then just behind them, of course, that promotes Al Sahuti up into the top 5, and Faris Putra just behind him in 6th at the moment, the Malaysian. So yeah, it's all to play for in terms of the podium, but is it all to play for in terms of the win? We will have to wait and see, but Danish has one hand on that winner's trophy.
It's worth pointing out at this point, Fran, as they come across the line once again, number 21 Izawa moves back into 2nd place, but for how long? Because Fadilla looks up the inside. Fadilla actually was one of those wild cards here last year. 5th place he got, just behind Carter Thompson, then got a pair of 8s at the remaining 2 races, so got plenty of experience here. But my goodness, 5th, being so close to that podium in that first race, he will give absolutely everything to be on that podium here today.
Yeah, absolutely, especially after a bit of a bumpy ride in Qatar at times, and being one of the veterans with so many rookies this season, that huge influx of new talent. There's a little bit of pressure as well for those guys who are a bit more established in the Cup. So yeah, I'm sure we will see plenty unleashed from the number 6. And of course, in that 2nd race in Qatar as well, he was maybe a little bit battered about after that crash in race 1 that he was caught up in. So it'd be interesting come the end of the race. But Hakeem Danish continues his track day.
Yeah, his the world's fastest track day on a mini Moto3 bike, essentially. Absolutely sensational stuff. 7.8 seconds quicker, the only rider in the 145s, and he's barely in them at all. He's almost in the 144s. Fadilla goes up the inside of Izawa once again, does the number 15. That was very impressive indeed, because that is not for the faint-hearted, that little S's section.
No, absolutely, and with still 8 laps to go, it's yeah, game on from the number 15, but it's been a really impressive race from him so far here at Mandalika. All thought it was getting a little bit deep there, but no, a little bit deceptive, that camera angle. So yeah, really good stuff from the number 15 to be fighting for the podium and at this stage in the race. But I don't know, has anyone got the pace to break away from those on the chase? Like we said, slipstream, not as big a concern here, but it's a big ask, isn't it, when you're in a battle this close?
The other thing about that final section, though, is that it's actually, if you stuff someone up the inside of turn 17, it's not like, well, not the Asia Talent Cup ever goes to Argentina, but it's quite a similar layout. But the run to the line is a little bit longer. It's not, and that corner is a little bit tighter, so it is worth trying to make a last dash overtaking move if you can, because someone is probably not or less likely to get you on the cutback towards the line.
Yeah, it's. I would love to see an ATC race in Argentina, but yeah, it's so many things can make a difference, can't they? And we saw as well a couple of final corner moves in Qatar that didn't quite have the intended consequence. But here, it's definitely going to be about those last lap tactics. That's what we saw from Furasato last year here, where he just played ace card after ace card, and Daniel Sharil just couldn't quite get the job done. But,
oh, that was really chopping Fadilla's nose off there, wasn't it? Goodness me.
Aggressive, considering we still have 7 laps to go. 6 after this one, but good stuff from Ozawa then, absolutely finding some aggression in reply to Fadilla's great race so far there.
Well, really consistent pace as well from Hakim Danish, a 1:45.1 at that time around, moves his leading gap up to 9.5 seconds. Fadilla, Ozawa and Thompson giving everything they can for second position now. Hakim Danish is gone, and Thompson moving up the inside in towards turn 15. He's got Fadilla and pushes him back to 4th place, but for the time being. This is interesting because actually that seems to be where these guys are trying to make their moves, in towards turn 15 and get it done by 16. So I wonder how that'll change as the tone of the race changes in a couple of laps' time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much more on the aggressionometer these guys will be able to crank it though. Some of the moves have been absolutely fantastic, but pretty brutal for where we are at the moment. You see they're all absolutely glued together there. Is Carter Thompson going to try and move up the inside? Nope. Stay in line astern, more or less, but Fadilla again looking very eager to get his elbows out. But yeah, great stuff from these guys so far, and I think it will be more of that tactical race. But who knows, when they're trying out moves throughout the race, they're going to know what they can do on those final laps. So, you know, it's always a good time to rehearse when you're in this group like this, isn't it?
And I've got to say as well, as we get to this point in the race with 6 laps to go, 6.5 or so now, it doesn't matter where you're from, where you grew up, this is where the physical aspect of this race comes into its own, because that heat will still be blazing down. There's just no respite. It doesn't feel like there's any oxygen that can really go into your lungs when you're really pushing at this point. Their heart rates will be much higher, but who could keep the coolest head, as it were, into these final laps?
Smooth. Yeah, it really is unbelievable here, and especially the humidity, like you say, it's, you know, it's like swimming through the air when you're walking around. So being on a bike as well and thinking through all these tactics, not only putting those laps together but also racing these guys, thinking it through where you are in the race, trying to figure out what hand you're going to play later on. So yeah, it's a great race so far for these guys. That was a little bit close there between Ozawa and Thompson.
They're nearly going 3 abreast as we come towards turn 15 again. Oh my goodness me, that is another move. Is that Fadilla up the inside of Thompson? It is,
of course,
but it goes very hot indeed in towards turn 16. The camera angle made it look like he was running to the back of Ozawa, but not quite.
No, and Thompson then gets him back, and the number 6 ahead again. It's so hard to tell the difference between those two with those helmets being identical. But yeah, Shinya Ozawa then ultimately a little bit unbothered by that as those two duelled it out. But yeah, Fadilla again, elbows out, and we've still got a few laps to go. But Carter Thompson, as smooth as you like, straight back through. So almost as you were, but still, it's that second place up for grabs here. So there's so much on the line for these guys.
Yeah, it really is worth it for someone like Fadilla, especially as Thompson as well missed out on the podium here last year. As I mentioned, 4th position, his best finish in the Mandalika races in 2021. They're just gapping Fadilla a little bit now, but will he be able to regroup in this really fast and flowing section? This part is all about your line choice. It's flat out, as I said earlier on. The slipstream might not work so much, and you've just got to nail that line and, well, keep it in check towards turn 10. What are we about to see here?
Maybe just a nice slow-mo, I think.
Yes,
unless
clearly.
We're about to see maybe a little bit wide. I don't think so, though.
No, just an interesting slow-mo of turn 10. But back into real-time turn 10, we've seen Fadilla move up the inside of Thompson once again then. Unfortunately, just received news on our timing screen. Tran Duc Thai, the Vietnamese rider, crashed out, but rider okay. That's a shame.
That is a shame, yeah. And especially in the wet. Huge step forward in terms of, yeah, getting a few riders behind him in qualifying. Impressive impressive stuff. And yeah, after a bit of a difficult start to his ATC career in Qatar, but yeah, Shane then he's crashed out, but Ryder okay, like you say.
Oh,
that's a little bit hot there.
Big wobble for Dilla on the inside in towards from turn 15 to turn 16. I thought that was going to be good night. We'll see you tomorrow, but no, he keeps it upright, and we'll get another chance again. Carter Thompson shaking his head, not sure why, but 4 laps to go. This is the point in the race where the tone changes. It gets a bit more frantic, gets a bit more brutal, feisty. Here we go. Will we see an Indonesian rider on the podium at home in Mandalika?
Well, I'm sure Raycat Fadilla will be hoping so. And yeah, great race so far from the number 15. He's still up there, like you say. It's almost crunch time now, and he's stuck with these guys who have got a little bit more experience right till the end of this race. So we'll have to see what happens there in that podium fight. It's as close as ever, but it is not as close as ever for this guy at the front of this race. Absolutely incredible. Now 12 seconds clear. Hakeem Danish at the front. Yeah,
12 seconds. Absolutely astonishing. A shout out though to all the Indonesian fans who are listening, because you're unfortunately for Rizwanto, you got one rider up the front battling for the podium, but Rizwanto's not gone the way he would like. He's been plummeted right down the order towards 11th place, but fortunately gets another go at it tomorrow. We'll pay attention once again though to your rider represented at the front. Fadilla taking on Carter Thompson and Shinya Izawa. The now championship leader is the number 21. Should he stay on for the rest of the race? Don't want to jinx it.
Indeed, yeah, don't jinx it. I don't know which way is the jinx. Saying that, not saying it, doubting it.
I covered both bases.
You did indeed. But yeah, the number 21 at the moment looking pretty controlled here in this fight, as again, Thompson versus Fadilla is really elbows out between these two guys. And we've got 3 more laps to go after this one, so it really is time to start planning your last lap moves and doing those final rehearsals.
If you have an eagle-eyed look to the right hand of Fadilla, I think I know the reason why Carter Thompson was shaking his head, because maybe they've gotten a little too close for comfort. That front brake protector has made contact with another motorcycle, because it's pointing out now, so maybe that's why. Pretty hard racing here when you want that home glory on the line, and down in the inside he goes in towards turn 1. Will he be too deep? No. Oh, the front wheel is twitching all the way around. Carter Thompson goes alongside him in towards turn 2. This is brilliant racing once again in the Asia Talent Cup.
This is essentially a duel with another rider just ahead.
It really is.
I think they've really got their teeth into this one, haven't they? There've been plenty of moves between the two, and yeah, Carter Thompson, like you said, is shaking his head a little bit earlier in the race. We will see how this develops, but so far so good. Nice, clean-ish, and yeah, some great moves, but Fadilla really pushing it now, it seems, at number 15.
This is a big part of the tuition that goes into the programs like Asia Talent Cup about racecraft. It's not just about doing one lap, your line choice. It's about keeping a cool head, where you can make moves, where you can't, what's over the limit, etc. There'll be a big debrief about this tonight, I'm sure, with their rider coach.
There will indeed. I am equally sure, maybe between each other as well. But yeah, it's great stuff so far, isn't it? But Izawa still looking pretty cool and collected at the front of this trio, just not able to pull a gap. He can't shake them, even though they're kind of seeming to focus more on each other. But Thompson then says, I've had enough of this. I'm going to take my chances at the front of the group, and the number 6 moves through into second. I'm sure Fadilla will be trying to follow him as soon as possible if Izawa can't hit back soon against the Australian.
I think you just gave it a mini commentator's curse, didn't you? Saying Izawa's looking really cool and collected, and he gets overtaken. But he is used to getting his elbows out. He did take that victory, first one of the season back in Qatar, by 0.04 of a second, right at the finish line. Will we see something similar here today? They are absolutely pinned in behind each other, trying to eke out any slipstream possible on the run into turn 1. Penultimate lap then. It's going to be a question of who will get second place here in the first race in Mandalika.
Well, Fadilla loves that move, and he's gone for it, the number 15. Again, just a little bit nervy, but keeping it nice and on the track at the moment, the number 15. Incredible stuff from him in his home round, but which way is this going to go? It's so hard to tell, and Thompson, after taking the lead in this group, now at the back of it again, the Australian.
The only problem he's got is he's so good at that move in towards turn 1. Will he be able to make a similar move into the all-important turn 17? No use doing it at turn 1 on that final lap if you can't keep it at turn 17. And now here we are at the absolutely pin section of the track. Slipstream will take effect once again. Here we go in towards turn 10. They're coming up the inside of Fadilla. It's Izawa. They move left and right in towards turn 10. They go. Izawa braking very late. Too late. Fadilla chops back through on the inside.
Wow, it is getting close. And are they aware this is the penultimate lap?
Yeah,
because
quite.
you've still got another one to go. know. But yeah, great stuff then. Number 15, absolutely dead set on taking this second place on home turf. Elbows fully out once again. But yeah, a little bit wide from Ozawa. Let's see, where is the next move going to come?
Yeah, well, who knows? It could be in towards turn 16. Here's the run down towards it. In towards turn 15 is where we've seen it before. But turn 6 with such a variety of lines, it's so inviting for that overtake. Will this be the dress rehearsal for the final lap? No. Apparently not.
No, the one time they've all stayed line astern and nice and tidy. But no, well, so Hakeem Danish then has started that last lap, as you can see top left in the graphics, because he has such an advantage. 15 seconds now nearly for the Malaysian. But here we go then, this fight for second place. Who is going to come out on top?
So no one showed their hand or their card into that final corner then, but it is Ozawa who makes that first move in towards turn 1. Will he be able to keep it though? I do not think he will throughout the entirety of this lap. Carter Thompson just dropping back there out of turn 1, so it looks like Ozawa versus Fadilla. Thompson just a bit wide in there. I think that was turn 4 was it, or 3, but I've lost count of where we are.
Yeah, you can see that brake protector, like you said, you can really see it there on that shot at that angle, number 15 against the green background. But so far then, it's as you were, and like you said, no one showed their cards on that penultimate.
Carl Thompson's gone down with a big high side there. That is him out of the running, unfortunately. He'll be absolutely gutted about that, but it's Fadilla who's making a move up the inside of Ozawa. Doesn't quite make it stick though. He nearly went sideways. That's good to see. Thompson, after an enormous accident, walking away. Just disappointment for him, thankfully. He'll get another look at it tomorrow. So now any one of these riders will be finishing on the podium if they stay upright. Ozawa moves to the right, to the left of the circuit, I should say. They're going to have one more opportunity to make that move.
Absolutely incredible drama then. Carter Thompson, like you said, on his feet, Ryder okay, and these guys now, they will both be on the podium, but they do both have to finish.
Yes, what order will it be for the Indonesian or the Japanese rider? But it's a Malaysian, top of the pile. Hakeem Danish takes the win, but we need to see what's going on at the final corner. Fadilla, he wants that second place, but it will be a podium. Just keep it upright. He's done it. It's going to be home glory for Fadilla, but Ozawa cements that championship lead with second place. Brilliant racing once again here in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup.
What an incredible conclusion to that podium battle. I was very nervous for both of them there, especially after that heartbreak for Carter Thompson. It can go wrong in an instant, but the Aussie up and okay, coming back for more tomorrow. But that podium runaway win from Hakeem Danish, absolutely stunning stuff from the Malaysian. And yeah, Ozawa and Fadilla then both in the end aggressive, but keeping it nice and clean, and both taking those podiums. Ozawa back on the box, and Fadilla home turf glory. Absolutely fantastic for him.
Well, it's home disappointment for Tryhardica, who's gone down, unfortunately. But this is what happened with Thompson. I mean, wow, I said it was flat out through there. It looked like he might have been a little bit offline, and we did say if he goes slightly offline, it is a bit more slippy. He's got a slightly different line choice there. Yep, a little bit wider, and unfortunately, well, that's the issue there. So we're taking a very good look at that, having a good look at the data. The main thing is he's able to walk away from a very, very big accident indeed. Yeah,
absolutely. You can see pretty frustrated with that, and I can't imagine on the last lap when you fought it out throughout the entire race. But yeah, main thing, up and on his feet, Ryder seemingly okay, and I'm sure at least he's got a good race of data as well for tomorrow, and I'm sure he'll be back in that fight at the front again. Shinya Ozawa though is a nice and calmer race from the number 21, a little bit less elbows than the two in that group fighting for second, and now yeah, really commanding performance from him, as Adaki just suffered that little setback today.
Yeah, there was a couple more fallers on the final lap as well. You've got, unfortunately for Malaysian fans, Faris Putra, who went down, but says rider okay on our timing screen. We just saw Indonesian rider Tryhardica unfortunately down as well. I do want to give a shout out though, Fran, to the rider in 4th position.
He's done it again.
Al Sahuti from 16th on the grid, going really, really well in these dry conditions. Up there finishing 4th place, just off the podium at the end. And Wakamatsu in 5th.
Yeah, I said Wakamatsu should move through in the race, but Hamad Al Sahuti, you know, home turf and in Qatar, a little bit of a different kettle of fish, but here, really impressive stuff from him to come through into 4th. And it was only a couple of tenths ahead of Wakamatsu as well, so they obviously fought it out till that final lap. But yeah, some Wow, some drama in that race at the front. That podium battle absolutely riveting. But that win for Hakeem Danish, so commanding from the Malaysian. I think that may send a few shivers to his competitors ahead of race 2.
Yeah, that was a very, when you see it was a very commanding performance, very cool-headed in such extreme heat. And when you see how the mistakes that were made by some of his main competitors for the championship, well, that shows you just how strong he was. This is what was eventually the second
place
winning overtake, yeah, from Izawa. Worth also mentioning, because this is such a different array of results, we've got Laungpleo from Buriram in Thailand, 6th position. That is his first finish of the season, and 6th place. Well, that is very respectable indeed.
It really is, yeah, and he was just half a second behind Wakamatsu as well in that little battle for 4th place. And then Nicholas there in 7th place. A lonely finish for the Australian in the end, but Riswanto taking some points then as well on home turf. Good stuff from him. And then Malaysians locking out that top 10 with Hafi and Iztar. But yeah, that podium battle was dramatic. The crash from Adaki was dramatic in terms of the standings, and Carter Thompson, it does say he's now gone to the medical centre, but we're sure it'll just be for a check at least, because we did see him walking away on his feet. So hopefully there's nothing for the Australian to worry about before race 2.
Yeah, hopefully nothing more than bruised ego for him, of course, ahead of tomorrow. Will be great to see Carter Thompson, the Australian, back competing for that podium, rectifying what happened today. As we look in part firmly at Hakeem Danish, well, it's just most we've seen him in about 10 minutes, isn't it? Because for the rest
yes.
of the time, unfortunately, it was such a dominating win. He barely got any TV time in the second half of the race.
To be fair, in this series, sponsors are all the same. But yes, absolutely incredible from the Malaysian. Yeah, just new face on the top step. Really, really great stuff from him. And I'm sure that'll give him so much confidence as well. Like you said, last year didn't quite get off the line here in Mandalika and take much from the round, even though there were those 3 races in the end. But yeah, really impressive stuff from the number 14. Absolutely untouchable in terms of the gap and the lap times, and so consistent with them. Yeah,
you could say, well, it's surprising really that he has got a fair bit of experience around here, but just not in actual races. And yeah, he was the one who just mastered it all, didn't he? He'll be very, very happy with that. Malaysians not too far away, but further than you think, will be very, very happy indeed, cheering all the way for their rider.
Absolutely, they will be, as I'm sure the Indonesian fans in the stands here will do, especially for this man in 3rd place, Rekat Fadila. Really impressive stuff from him on the podium at home. Special feeling. I say that like I remember when I did it, but it must be a very special feeling for these guys. And Shinya Izawa as well, hammering home his pace since joining the ATC this season. Really impressive stuff. Him and Adaki were really those standout rookies in Qatar, but Adaki did just falter early on in the race today. So advantage Izawa in terms of the points and currently in terms of that little rookie battle as well.
Yeah, but it has really tightened up the championship in some respects, hasn't it? You've got 14 points back to your former championship leader Adaki in 4th, Al Sahuti into 3rd place. So we got a Japanese rider from a Malaysian, from a Qatari, top 3 in the series at the moment. Really, really impressive. You can't tell just how trying and testing those conditions were out there, with riders still with their leathers on. Just take a little look at those in white shirts and things like that around.
Absolutely,
it is very, very difficult indeed.
Even just that parade we had in Jakarta that, like we said, sadly, the injured Veda Ega Pratama was also part of. That was enough, and that was 4 kilometres.
Yeah.
So race distance, it really is, yeah, an athletic feat as well as a racing one for these guys. So yeah, really congratulations to them. Hopefully now they get a bit of a cool breeze.
Yeah, exactly.
See the flag just outside our commentary box waving ever so slightly, and ever so slightly can count for a lot when it's this hot.
Yeah, and they will, of course, when they get to the TV set and do their interviews and whatever, they'll be given water and things like that to replenish themselves.
Towel, nice little refresh.
Chuck a little electrolyte in there as well. I was hearing earlier on that some of the riders after a session or a race will add 1 kilo to their race suits from sweat. I mean, pretty extreme, even though, as we mentioned, some of them from fairly local.
yeah, I enjoy add 1 kilo to the suit rather than lose it from themselves. But
Wow.
yeah, it is pretty dramatic, isn't it? Even when you're just kind of working and walking from A to B, you really have to keep drinking water. And yeah, it really is, like I said, an athletic feat racing in these temperatures here. But great job from all of those guys, and especially Hakeem Danish. You know, that's incredible. 15.6 seconds over the line in the end.
Well, when
Didn't
was the
really.
We've seen sort of dominance like that from Furisato last year occasionally. But yeah, it's been a while since we've seen that, isn't it?
Has it indeed? And yeah, normally you roll off a bit on the last couple of laps when you've got that much advantage. But looking at that, I don't think Danish must have done too much at all.
No,
He's kept it pinned.
His final lap was still faster than everybody else's by 0.3 of a second. So that says it all, I think.
It was indeed, yeah. Wow, that's impressive stuff from the Malaysian, and seriously worrying for the rest of them for race 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, it is. As it does, yeah, as I mentioned, moves him up to second in the championship standings. 47 points, just 1 point ahead of Al Sahuti. Hakeem Danish did actually finish back in 5th place in race 2 in Qatar. It was actually a pair of 5th places, race 1 and 2. So a quiet start, you could say, out in the desert just a few weeks ago. Worth noting again, this isn't our only visit to Mandalika this year as well, is it?
No, which is great news for Hakeem Danish once again, isn't it? There's still 75 points to be fought over, or a maximum of 75, I should say, to be fought over here at Mandalika circuit. And yeah, it's just unthinkable at the moment that anyone could challenge the Malaysian if he keeps it upright in those races with such an advantage. But you never know. As we always say, the ATC is here to help riders progress and learn more than just win races. It's all about the whole package here in the Asia Talent Cup. So who knows, by the 3rd race, maybe we'll have more of a battle on our hands, maybe even race 2 tomorrow.
Yeah, that's normally what happens. Race 1 and race 2 are very, very different kettles of fish altogether, aren't they, at these ATC rounds. People go and do a lot of homework overnight. There's also a lot more rubber on the circuit generally, provided we don't have any more downpours tonight and monsoon rains.
Well, I was going to say, we're first out tomorrow with the Asia Talent Cup, so if there is rain, it's another little bit of the unknown for these guys. And it is a very short turnaround between the races, isn't it? It's get back to the tent, digest the data, talk to rider coach, get ready for tomorrow, get up and race again.
Yeah, off they go. So yeah, it's a very, very tight schedule, quick turnaround and everything as we wait for the riders to come out onto the podium. This will be a special moment because of course it will be Raykat Fadila, the Indonesian rider, coming out onto the podium at his home race for the first time here. It will be of course applauded by all the fans that are still left over. Be very, very chuffed with this.
From Indonesia.
I'm not sure how loud the circuit speaker is in your headsets, TV sets at home, but that was pretty loud and awesome. A special moment for him. 2nd place, though, will be Shinya Izawa.
Yeah, really impressive start to the season for the Japanese rookie.
From Malaysia.
Hakeem Danish then out onto the podium in Indonesia.
Now we'd like to invite
Who is coming to collect the trophy, though? That's the question. What excitement awaits us now? Previously, it was Taka Nakagami and Ayagura.
Now, I don't believe it is riders today. We have some dignitaries. We have a representative from Idemitsu and the chief of the West Nusa Tenggara Police, I believe.
Oh, right.
Chief Inspector there. And then 2nd is a dignitary from Idemitsu, like I said, from Idemitsu, Indonesia.
as the president, PT Idemitsu Loop Indonesia.
There we go. Then coming up, give the 2nd place trophy out. Very respectful pass over. And then, of course, it'll be the 1st place trophy for Hakeem Danish.
It is, and it's the president of FIM Asia who presents the winner's trophy. And now it'll be the national anthem.
Yes, of Malaysia. can safely say I felt that in my fingers and in my toes because we're literally right next to the podium.
We are indeed.
Some big rumbles.
Yeah, absolutely. The Malaysian national anthem then ringing out across Lombok this time around. Can he do it again tomorrow? It's hard to bet against it.
Yeah, well, here I can do the rider in the far corner of your screen of that previous shot will be doing everything he can to make sure it's him on top of the box here tomorrow. We'll be getting a look at some highlights very shortly from that race. Do join us tomorrow. We'll be on here local time, getting underway at 8:50 a.m. Very early start for, well, everybody, in fact, actually, if you're watching from the west or if you're watching from the east. It's still quite early on a Sunday.
It is indeed, yes, absolutely. So let's have a look then. Highlights of this first race at Mandalika this time around. And off the line, Adaki got a better start this time around. The number 14 able to just streak away in the race lead early on before disaster would strike a little bit later.
Yeah, unfortunately so. It was drama from the very get-go. It was Gun Mie, who got 3 podiums here last year, crashed out of the race on the first lap. He was fortunate not to take some of the other riders with him. Disappointment, but he'll be in the running once again tomorrow. But it was all about the number 13, Hakim Danish, taking off towards the front. Well, and that was the last that they saw of him, wasn't it?
Pretty much it was, and unfortunately that was the last Amon Adaki saw of this race one here at Mandalika as the number 14 slid out. Rider perfectly okay, but disappointed, and that place in the standings taking a dent as these guys then fought it out tooth and nail for that podium.
Yeah, Hakim Danish off out front by 15 seconds towards the end, but it was Fadilla, the number 15, versus Thompson, number 6, and 21 Izawa for that second place. They gave absolutely everything they could and a little bit more, particularly with these various overtakes in towards turn 1. Izawa looking very strong indeed as he cemented overall his lead in the championship. This was a decisive moment on the final lap with Thompson crashing out. Hopefully he's all okay for tomorrow. Take nothing away though for Danish. A superb performance today with Izawa in second, Fadilla, the Indonesian, in third. Join us tomorrow for Asia Talent Cup in Indonesia, race 2.